We are here today, of course, to hear about the Battle Proven strategies for going to market. And I believe there's a book that's not long come out, very close to come out, almost launched. I've lost track of where it is in the state right now. But there we go, right there. And this person that's going to be
Oh my God,
hearing
Daniil,
from
that's
today,
so cool.
Daniil's going too. So this person is your go-to person for go-to-market strategies. And we are very honored to have her here today sharing her wisdom with us. So everyone, buckle up, you're in for a ride. Maja, feel free to share your screen and introduce yourself in a way better than I can, because I've just said words, but you know your story better than me. Are you ready?
But before I do that, let me talk about our story as well.
Yes, share our
So I
story.
have been stalking Chris on LinkedIn for like 6 months or so, and I've always been, wow, he's this Mirrorverse king. So many things are going on in his life. He must be super cool and unapproachable. I had my imposter syndrome, a healthy dose of it, before I ever dared to speak with him directly. But after I did that, he turned out to be quite a cool guy, and I very much appreciate it. And he invited me to join here with his community and just like the podcast that he's running. And I was just like a little bit afraid, a little bit of honored, and just like totally enthusiastic to talk through our science, because what our science is, it's a science from practitioners to practitioners, right? Whatever we are hearing from the US and like companies that have millions on their bank accounts is not necessarily relevant to us. So we wanted to take our own European standpoint of this and just like make sure that we can elaborate how to go to market. And before saying anything else, I will try to share my screen. Chris will have to allow me to do this. I think we're okay. I think we're aligned, and I just need your confirmation in order that you see the screen. Is that okay?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Appreciate your response. Okay, so here comes my story. I spent, what was that weird sound effect? It was worse than me dropping a lipstick. Okay, cool. We can start. Okay, you're trolling me, brother. Stop. Nevertheless, I've spent a decade or so just like working with hundreds of companies, including the big ones. But my heart and soul has been always with the smaller companies, with the companies that are bootstrapping, because if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. And here are a couple of lessons that I learned in the last decade or so of my career, or just like working for the region where odds are staked against you. And whatever survives there is really like battle tested and proven to work. So I'm eager to share a couple of lessons that I, of course, use at my own book journey and book launch as well, because for me, it's nothing but walk the talk. And here are the 4 key lessons that guided me through this journey of making an Amazon bestseller in 16 hours since launching the pre-sale. And there are 4 ground principles and a little bit of boring theory that I am eager to share with you today. Just like to prove the point how you can make it, even though if you come from maybe a disadvantaged environment, or just like in the environment when you have more ideas than resources, which I think it's our reality. So the first principle that we will talk about today is just like you have to know your customers. This is so critical because it depends, it literally determines the willingness to pay, the channels that you will be choosing, and just like whatever is going on in terms of product, this needs to be customer first. The second one, which is especially important in these days and age, is test the willingness to pay as soon as possible, because a lot of people will say that they love it, but the questions that your bank and your investors will ask you is, will they pay for it? Do you have a proven revenue model, business model? So that's the second one. The third one is just about this channel selection, because there are so many options, but we cannot stretch ourselves too thin. And my idea for the book launch was literally go with one channel and just like repurpose stuff for other channels if I have to. So it was that. And the fourth one was how to create this virality, how to create this lever, because we cannot buy all the attention that we need. My launch was 100% organic, and I'm here to tell the story of how did we make it happen and how you can apply this to your companies. If that sounds good, let me bore you with some core principles. Of course, you know this chart, and just like these horrible statistics that 95% of innovations will never cross the chasm. And chasm is where the crocodile eats you and your company is no longer alive. Meaning that, of course, you can sell something to your mother, to your dear friends, and people who are absolutely influenced and loved by you. But nevertheless, in order to win the big market share, you need to go and win early majority. And to my experience, the safest way how to do this was to use something which is called a beachhead strategy. And beachhead strategy is a really weird concept. It comes from World War II. And this is literally how the Allies won the Normandy, and it was beach by beach. Instead of spreading yourself too thin and spraying and praying that you do a lot of activities and something good will come out of this, you go and first choose a very narrow target and do as narrow as a market of maybe like 10 hospitals in the UK, and later on expand to the adjacent market in order to expand this traction. And there are a couple of criteria which make this beachhead segment very important. The first one is that they have to have high problem points, so a burning pain point that you can address. It's not that you could sell to them and they would say like, okay, maybe you can come back in 6 months or so, but they would be shut up and take my money. I literally need to fix this today. This is how you want them to behave. The second one is that they have some sort of indication of willingness to pay. The third one is that they are in a position that if you want one deal, that you can create a case study or just like make sure to get a decent recommendation in order to win the next business. And there is a fourth one, which is like kind of connected with your ability to just like talk with these people, right? Because if I come from a consulting industry and you send me to work with somebody from the cement industry, I'm probably not the best seller for them. I would struggle. I don't know the people there. I don't have any proximity in that segment. So just like this proximity is super important as well. So instead of stretching yourself too thin, you go segment per segment and then eventually win the market. But the good news is that you don't have to guess the segment from a get-go. You can literally do a solid research and decide and discover what is your ultimate beachhead segment, what is your ideal customer audience that you could win in your beachhead segment strategy. And when you are testing this, I very much recommend this approach of a double research loop. So the first one is just like if you come from a product management background, to have an initial proof, to do a little bit of an assumption mapping, to have initial evidence that something is true, right? And we use research methods, classical research methods, in order to just like figure it out if we are onto something. Later on, we need scientific proof. We need to understand if whatever we are onto right now is scalable and could be addressed again. The way how I tested it on our go-to-market strategies book was very simple. So I sat down and I record like this Loom video, this 21-minute weird presentation, and I send it to 50 people. A lot of them, let's say 80%, sent me back their feedback, and based on their feedback, I divided it on just like who was absolutely on board, so this is green, then who was like, meh, but please don't give up, like, we love you, it's okay, and people who absolutely hated it. Based on this feedback, I quickly realized that my ideal customer profile are more of product managers and technical founders, ideally founders who are like second or more time into the business because they have lived through this journey and they have experienced this pain, why we should invest so much mental effort, so much decision-making power into making the right choices, how to go to market. But again, this is anecdotal proof, and I won't take it for its face value. That's why I went ahead and tested it with scientific proof as well, with experimentation, with some serious stuff. And here we'll just focus on the right side of the spectrum, and I'll tell you a really weird story how my book launch went. So before I knew who my ICP was, I had these miserable numbers, and this is like before. I'm literally embarrassed to display these stats to you, but like you see that like 100 people reacted to this content that we were publishing on LinkedIn and elsewhere, and the conversion rate was okay for a free chapter, but nevertheless this could never scale. Not before I did adjust messaging, and just like the core messages to the ideal target audience that I got from the previous round of research, did we create a killer landing page that converted at more than 50%. And I mean, is 1,300 visits representable? No, but nevertheless, just like to see before after test was very, very, very insightful to me, and I knew that we are onto something good. But I didn't stop there, because we did have a LinkedIn content machinery in place as well. And on the right side of the slide, you see before after in terms of just like demographics who responded to my posts, right? And traditionally, I come from a very like growth hacking, sales, marketing background, and this is the before status. You see here that like my ICP before was the salesperson. Whoopsie, what can you sell to a salesperson? Maybe a CRM, but not more than else. So I did very, very, very much take these lessons, this consideration to the content stream as well. And after I applied these insights, I just got an entirely different structure. I was happy to see a lot of product managers, a lot of CEOs, a lot of product marketing managers, and other technical experts just like resonating with the content much better than if I would be writing about what's the latest TikTok video that you could do that brought us 1 million impressions. So I literally think that the type of audience that resonated with this content was much more intelligent, much more intentionally chosen for who actually make the decisions in GTM, right? Because they are either founders, either head of growth, or product managers. And that was important to me. That was a really good piece of evidence. But again, one thing is to say that they will love it, but will they pay for it? In my world, the product market fit consists of three dimensions. So of course, you have this initial intercept of what is your minimal viable product, what is the value proposition, and who is this beachhead segment, this minimal viable segment that you selected. Of course, you have to deliver the value. And value, I see it here as the intercept of this system, as core of the system. But can you capture this value? Can you capture enough of this value to build a sustainable business model out of it? Was my next question. So that's why I was like, okay, we built a waiting list of 3,000 people, but will those people actually buy the book? Will they engage in our ecosystem further? That was the next question that I needed to tackle. This is how I did it. There are a bunch of research methods out there, and in terms of interviews and surveys, I never trust those bastards, because people can say anything. And I mean, interviews are great for in-depth knowledge and to understand why people are doing something like that. But if they say that you should do it, that doesn't necessarily mean that they will pay for it, right? So I go up the chart, and I am much more inclined towards actually doing pre-sales and actually testing this, if I can monetize this, if I can make a business out of this. And there have been instances in my career when I sold things via like a Google Doc or a PDF presentation that costed like 50K or more before they were ever built. That for me, I think it's very zeitgeistish, because you know how it is. Like, you cannot spend 1 year or 2 years developing something that market will not want and will not be prepared to pay for it. So that's why, in terms of just like completeness of the product and the confidence level on which I am making, and you could be making decisions too, I prefer to the upper part of this spectrum. That's why my team and I decided to run a pre-sale. So we had this wait list of like thousands of people who allegedly wanted the book, but not before we launched an Amazon pre-sales. Only Kindle version is possible on pre-sales, by the way, if you are wondering about this. But I needed to have more evidence. I was just not comfortable with this confidence level just yet. So we went ahead and we launched this pre-sale. The Kindle version costs 9.99. In the pre-sale, it costed 7.99, and it was a small discount, but still, like, to the early supporters, you need to give a special deal, right? So either a freebie or just like a mini discount that would cut the chase. And luckily, we turned out to be a bestseller just like 16 hours after initiating this experiment of pre-sales. I never anticipated that. I was humbled and I was very much surprised to just like seeing it happen. But it was very important for me to see this evidence, because before that, everything were just words, right? Everything were just like these weird leads of people who could potentially buy something but haven't bought shit before. And that was very important evidence for me that it's really a good book and that we have a tangible business here. The way how we did this is just like the first month that we ran the campaign in the pre-launch, we were just like generating emails, but emails ain't money on your bank account. So we did collect a lot of emails. After we launched the pre-sales and just like inform people on the emails that there is a pre-sale, we were able to monetize in the early stages, and surprisingly, we won a bestseller in a couple of different categories on Amazon, and I don't want to name drop here. And then when we actually launched, it was like so much more simple, because I had this peace of mind and more confidence that the launch is going to be successful, and that whatever we were doing before in terms of marketing and growth actually made sense. And that was very important for me as a founder, because you know how it is. You can have these campaigns for like months and you only see this reach and these engagements and people are like congratulating you, but you never know before you make some tangible traction. So this is how I would think about this. And when we are talking about traction and marketing, my next message is to literally not spread yourself too thin. There are gazillion of channels that you could be playing. In most basic manner, you could be dividing them to demand generation and demand capture. Demand generation meaning that you are literally imprinting the idea that somebody wants something in people's head, that they haven't displayed any purchasing behavior so far, so they are at the very early stages of the customer journey. And demand capture is just like, okay, somebody is comparing sales for HubSpot and our freaking CRM, and we need to do better. People are actively searching for this information. This line, how I divided channels, is not fixed. It depends on your unique customer journey, and this is just like an idea of how different channels are behaving. But I think we can be clear that if you are spraying some PR articles out there, that it is less focused than if you are running retargeting ads, or if you are just like generating existing demand from the marketplaces. This is the ground idea. And this is how I literally like to think about whether there is an existing demand to it or you should be building your own demand. I'm literally asking myself the first question: is there a demand for whatever I'm doing? Yes or no? If yes, start with demand capture. Just like pick up the low-hanging fruits, just do it in order to get to the next stage. If no, there could be adjacent categories on which you could be piggybacking on. And what I mean with this is just like I'm working with this company who's working on like AI driven CRM, and they have like a very specific, very red ocean space to compete in. And, whereas you can never outspend HubSpots and Salesforces of this world, you have a bunch of, let's say, small businesses who are maybe running their CRMs right now in a spreadsheet or even in their email marketing programs. And if you find those people, you could literally transmit this demand to a higher endeavors that you could be doing. I have another client who has a LMS, so learning management system, and they're competing against Thinkific. Again, in terms of paid, they could never outrun them. It would never be possible. But we went a little bit more backwards in terms of their customer journey, and we started to sell courses on just like how to build your online business, how to make extra revenue as a consultant or an influencers of just like using those online tools. And that was freaking insightful in terms of that line. In my specific manner, the idea, the whole solution was LinkedIn, because just like in terms of what is going on right now in the go-to-market space, I think that everybody is really clear that whatever Dropbox did 10 years ago does no longer implement to your business right now. And we have to find leaner and better ways from actual practitioners in order to make it happen. I didn't want to do YouTube videos. I didn't want to do like call Xting, whatever Twitter is called these days, or God forbid TikToks, because I'm 35 years old and I'm pretty cringe when it comes to video recording. But nevertheless, we did focus on a single channel. We didn't go with this inertia of just like spreading ourselves to thin for gazillion channels and then not being able to do the critical mass on either single channel that we would select. And here are the results. So in the last 90 days, we did manage to get 1 million impressions. I think that it's not very impressive to see this for maybe Chris Stone, but for me it was because beforehand, my average post maybe had like 5K impression or something like that. And just to see that you, as somebody who's like a completely normal business person, like who's just like there doing their job, it's so much more insightful to just like see something which has like maybe 100K or 50K of reach, but just like sharing your knowledge and not being this crying CEO baby portraying their feelings and harvesting on people's empathy. So that was a very delicate content strategy, and to be honest, quite labor intense task for me as a founder, because I did spend at least 3 hours a day on LinkedIn, and it's not like a magical pill to make it happen. LinkedIn is pretty generous in terms of a platform that it provides a lot of organic reach if you have good content, but still it's hard work, and I just want to be honest and transparent about this. And lesson number 4, the final one, you cannot outwork yourself, right? Ideally, you would have to create some leverage. And here was my problem with a traditional marketing/sale funnel. I never understood the referrals part of it. Okay, I understood how acquisition works. I know how activation works, retention. Okay, that's self-explanatory. Of course, monetization, that's logical. But what the hell are referrals? Are referrals something that you can create like a viral contest and somebody wins an iPhone? There are better ways how to do this. And I was delighted to get familiar with this concept of growth loops, initially created by Reforge. My colleague Ognjen Bošković implemented this to our product, and he was totally instrumental when I was discovering this. But growth loops literally mean that you have this self-fulfilling prophecy that whatever value is being delivered through the product will be exponentially delivered and harvested towards attracting new users to the system. Ognjen and I agreed that there are alleged 4 growth loops that we could be using. And I'm guessing that everybody is familiar with that. So the first one is usage-based loop. That is like literally Loom. When somebody sends you a Loom, you are immediately exposed to the brand and maybe curious that you would be Looming as well. And just like in terms of that perspective, I was so intrigued by making this happen because, in the book, like on a piece of paper, I could never portray workshops directly. And I'm just like trying to find like a reasonable model. But for example, this on paper looks like shit, right? I need to put this to Metaverse and I need to digitalize this much better in order to deliver value to people. And I know that this stuff will live a life of its own and maybe attract additional people towards our product. The second one is collaboration loop. So that means, for example, you all know Figma. When somebody does a prototype in Figma and they invite you to put some comments to review this prototype, you are immediately, wow, Figma, that's so cool. We should do this as well. And I did the same thing with my book. I invited over 50 experts to collaborate on this science with me and just like be a test reader or just like participate what all need to growth loops. And I had some other participants as well. And everybody from my expert board has been extremely generous, extremely kind into sharing these concepts onward because, it makes them look good and it definitely helps our marketing as well. The third one is user generated loop. That the biggest user generated loop is of course Google, just like all the website, everything what is online. But here there is an example of Quora. And what I did realize from launching the book, people started to pitch in their own mirror boards and their own concepts. And I literally believe that it would be so cool to meet some of those people before, because I would definitely love to include them in the book. It was definitely a high value contribution. And last but not least, we have the viral loop. So end year is coming and Spotify will be serving us again. Here are the best songs that you enjoy in 2023, but this is how we made it happen for the book. So we are developing an educational ecosystem around the product as well. And Ognen and I will be launching a cohort for just like how to apply these concepts in real life. Before the launch, we just made this AKA viral email where we invited people to do these 4 specific actions in order to win a free seat in our cohort. Right? It looks a little bit like an iPhone. I know it's a little bit shady, but we got 2 really cool product managers to join us, and there was a lot of goodwill because, like, nobody is, of course, like just there for a bounty hunt. People are genuinely interested in the product as well, and why not reward them because they are valuable members of your community. And that, my friends, in a nutshell, is how we launched the GTM strategies and the core principles that made this launch quite successful. If you would like to get your copy, it's on Amazon Kindle version, like $10, absolutely no struggle. I'm here to do the refunds if you want to enjoy the content, but I do think the content is pretty decent. And here is my promise to you: if you don't catch anything from this book, like if you implement the idea and don't get positive ROI, I'm here to return all your monies. Because you know how it is when we are preaching these concepts, like we get so inspired when we hear about them, but then we can read a lot. Knowledge could be a rabbit hole. And at the end of the day, what matters is what you apply to your business. So I always say one idea implemented is better than 350 pages to listen to. I hope everybody's still here. Otherwise, yeah, I have been talking to the blanks for the last couple of minutes. And I'll stop sharing. Chris, you are probably muted because you are not beating my ass from doing this presentation.
Can you hear me?
Unfortunately, yes.
Fortunately, you can hear me. I was just saying thank you. Let's open it up to the floor. Who would like
Would love
to,
it.
who would like to delve a little bit more into that go-to market brain?
Yeah, maybe just like if somebody is launching and you have some questions, which audience to choose, which channels to choose, how to set the price. Let's be very tactical about this.
We can literally troubleshoot it live.
I'll say something.
Okay.
It's not up and running in any way, shape, or form. I'm currently just doing a bit of research as to valuable knowledge on all things digital marketing. I will be doing a digital marketing course because that is something I'm interested in. But in the meantime, I've been looking at ideas that I've had, which sort of I did resonate with the idea that a lot of innovation just doesn't take off. And I've sort of made a committed decision to say that 2024 would be very, very different and, start small, but just start. And for me, I'm a gemologist. So my interest is in precious stones. And there is a market for colored gemstones within the UK that I've managed to kind of identify where there's a certain type of service that I would like to sort of look into. So I just wanted to say I do appreciate everything you have been saying because it's been very, very interesting to listen to, and it seems sort of up my alley. I'll be getting the book, is what I'm saying. Would there be any particular industry where things might have to? So, for example, gemology is a fairly sort of higher value product, depending on which type of stone you would be working with. I have a feeling LinkedIn is going to be a strong option just because of the sort of types of people that you tend to come across, and even just my own network system. Um, but incorporating that into other social media, I was wondering whether you'd come across anyone who sort of deals with whether it's sort of high value fashion or high value sort of jewelry, fine watches. Was there a particular set of social media platforms that sort of stood out to you, maybe that would be more relevant for that sort of thing?
Okay, let's dissect this question into a couple of different dimensions. The first dimension is just like the market that you are serving to. So, who's your ideal customer and what's your price point? What is like the willingness to pay that you are pursuing?
Well, I mean, at the moment, it is sort of hard to decide where I would start, but realistically, the customer base that I am looking at are smaller to medium-sized businesses. There's a particular set of districts that I'd like to start networking in. One is the Birmingham district, where you can find quite a lot of jewelers, as well as certain connections I have in London. The idea would be to provide loose gemstones to companies that tend to deal with bespoke jewelry, or they're trying to repair something. So sometimes a customer comes in, a stone's destroyed beyond repair, but it needs to be replaced. They have to find someone to get that replacement. And it's a very interesting, I think for me, I don't have enough experience yet for price points in terms of the wholesale side of things. And I have found that the price points do vary wildly based on who you know. So I'm still making decisions on that. But the initial amount that I thought I'd be investing was probably something around 30 to 50K. I did want to try and see about keeping it digital, almost like a concierge. Jewelry concierge is something that I have looked into, and I have found that there's a lot less in the UK compared to, say, in the States. So in New York, for example, I found quite a few more services that tend to cater to that. But I see no reason for why that wouldn't work in the UK based on the clientele that we do get in the UK. I've worked in Selfridges, Harrods, Harvey Nichols. I've got a good sense of who comes to shop for higher value products that might be international tourists, regular visitors. So yeah, that's all I have for now for you, unfortunately.
Oh,
But
it's
yeah,
plenty. It's plenty
yeah,
to work with, definitely. So, from what I hear is that you have the natural proximity to the segment, right? So you could
yes,
literally walk through the street and close like five jewelers if somebody needs a concierge or something like that, that you are their go-to person. And just like this proximity is totally valuable, and I would literally go and ask those people how they are getting this recommendation. This happened to me once in the automated vehicles. So the vehicles who are like literally self-driving, we did cooling system for them, and there were maybe like 200 customers in the entire world that we could cater to. Since we were already in business with five of them, I just went and I asked like those people, what are the events that you are visiting? What are maybe like the influencers or go-to persons that you keep in mind? What are some relevant media like niche magazines that you are tracking? But I do think that it is high value businesses. It's not as if I would see something on Instagram and I would say, hey, I'm so intrigued to spend 50K with this person. I mean, we were buying Mercedes Benz last month, and I took 4 test rides in order to make it happen. It was just like so long till we built this trust, this confidence that we could make it happen. And here, when we are talking about channels, there are no like new school and old school channels. What is really important for the line of your work is to have, let's say, representable social media presence. So if somebody Googles your name, that you are there, that all your references from heralds and whatnot are nicely presented. But it's not as if you could be posting and just like, wow, I'm gonna buy this 30K gem from her because she looks cool on Instagram. Just like try to figure it out how this natural purchasing process works and try to capitalize on that, because this is ultimately the question of input and output metrics. And I see a lot of entrepreneurs just like thinking about what should we be doing, like 5 Instagram posts a week, like 10,000 outgoing thoughts or something like that. So we are all about the hard work, but we aren't necessarily intentional about the output metrics, right? And I would literally set out a roadmap of, okay, so each week, what is mission critical for me is to close 2 new partners. How I do it, I don't care. I will learn. I will test multiple different approaches how to get there. But this is what I aim to achieve at the moment. And this is how I would literally tackle this problem. I have a sales goal myself right now. So for me, like each week, I want to sell at least like 500 books. And I'm experimenting with channels. Today I'm here, tomorrow I'm in Singapore, then we will run Amazon ads, and it's a wild, wild, wild card. And I just have to observe the stats and learn from it and just do more of the stuff that works well for me right now. Nobody has all the answers from a get go, but I do think that the best answers come from understanding your ideal customer profile inside out and just like spending time and communicating with them. Hope that helped.
yeah. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Appreciate your question. You opened the floor so nicely, and we were actually talking about the gemstones.
Maybe I have a quick one.
Go, 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 go.
I really wish that this book would be in my hands half year ago when I
What
actually
happened? What happened? What's the frustration? What went wrong?
nothing yet, but half year ago I started thinking actually building a fractional C-level agency. So, and actually I opened it in the end, so everything went well. I had as well kind of pre-sale session with the startups, but when it came to the actual signing of the contracts, I mean, after some time, I realized that not all of the startups have funding at the moment, right? So when I had to quickly adjust and change my strategy, and yeah, I was in a kind of dark launch, so I was not really public on the LinkedIn or etc. But now when I read your book, I mean, I could avoid some mistakes, to be honest, But yeah, definitely, I really wish I would have this book much earlier. So, but since I still growing and finding new market fits, I'm glad that I got it. And I don't know, maybe my small question from me would be, did actually the book for you started this loop of bringing new people to your profile? And if
Got it.
so, how do you even track this?
Cool. Okay, so right now somebody asked me to share a link, and I didn't want to do this like as an invasion, but here is how you can get it on Amazon. Just like, forgive me for putting on Santa tracks, but I make majority of my sales in B2B when I'm selling like bulk holders of 50 or 100 books. But just like in terms of, let's say that the book was just like a collection of knowledge, because ultimately what people appreciate, and I think that Chris can comment on this further because he's even better than I am in order to have like unique point of view. I think that everybody is so sick and tired of hearing this generic leadership thing of, for example, Daniil, if I would be posting shit like teamwork is dream work, believe in your teammates. I used to think that I cannot publicly speak because I'm not English native. Now I did it. And it would just be bullshit. It would not add any value to your life. My sole criteria when I'm creating a content is leave them better than you found them. If there is a fraction of value that I can add, if your life will be just a little bit better than before you consume this piece of content, this is the benchmark that I'm literally judging all my content pieces against. And of course, like if you spent a year working on a book, it's easier because you have a bunch of illustrations and you have a bunch of concepts that you are very eager to share with the world. But you know what? Also documenting your life, the challenges that your customers are facing. Like I couldn't even prevent from saying this myself into this presentation, right? I talked about two of the companies that I work with today because that makes it more relatable and more tangible. There was just like a weird post the other day when somebody did their take on prioritization metrics. And not everybody here is, of course, interested in prioritization metrics, but nevertheless, I don't want to intellectually masturbate on LinkedIn, even though that like it could harvest some likes. I just want to help my folks. And my folks are usually, let's say, 6 months behind me. And Daniil, just like in your case, you could be communicating about what startups do wrong in terms when they are selecting a technology. For example, MongoDB is a brilliant example of this, right? MongoDB is a terrible database in terms of being scalable, and just like you are making these decisions for the next 5 years or so, and what you need to pay attention to, because otherwise there is a horror story. You could be saying things about like fashion or business stuff that you have been working with prior. What would you be doing differently if you were in their shoes now? You could be portraying stuff as if like I'm leading an international development team of 5 people. We sit in 3 different countries. These are the problems that I'm dealing with as their leaders. You can be like 100% honest and transparent, and I really think that people feel it. And we'll probably like pass the ball to Chris because Chris is probably 10x of what I'm doing on LinkedIn.
And as I said in the chat, the only person you compete with is yourself. But that doesn't stop you thinking about it. Those intrusive thoughts take over and they go, why is that person doing better than I'm doing? And why, what are they doing that I'm not? And I guess if you use it as a benchmark and you use it from curiosity and think, how can I
learn from you? This is literally it. How can I learn from you?
Because if everyone's looking at my content and going, oh, they're doing amazingly, I do the same with other people's. And I'm like, why are they doing what they're doing? And how are they getting so much success? And what really resonates with me about what you said there is that the reason you post is to leave people better than when they started, and about that fractional marginal improvement. I do the same. If I've impacted one person from a bit of content being shared, beautiful. Then it's been successful. It's been worthwhile me doing that. And I also think a lot of people, they hold themselves back from sharing. They've got this imposter syndrome. They've got this my voice won't be valued, or there are people that are better at this than I am, so I won't do it. And the problem is that everyone, not the problem, but the reality is that everyone has a different experience. Everyone in this room, everyone in this virtual room has had experiences that I haven't had with people that I haven't met, from cultures that I haven't been part of. So everyone's voice and journey is unique and a little bit different, and that is a story that you can share. And as Maya said, people love authenticity. They don't just want to hear the success. They want to hear the fucking hard shit that goes on in the background as well, that contributes to that success. The overnight success doesn't really happen. What you don't see is all of the suffering, the difficulties, the consistency that people go through to get where they are today.
It's very cool. Chris, just like one thing, and I think that Danila and I are here in the Slavic corner, and like for us, it's very, very, very difficult to complain, right? For us, it's very difficult to be vulnerable because otherwise, the party can hijack you, and your neighbors might be doing better than you are. So culturally, wired wise, we always pretend to be like great and stand high or something like that. And I do think that this skill is increasingly not so important because it's so important to be honest and vulnerable. But what I'm lacking is just like not some bravery, but something like, and I will do it. Just like some stamina, some mental robustness, something that like drives people forward instead of putting them back. These are the voices that I personally miss on social media because everybody can complain about shit that happened in their life, and that's cool, but does it influence my life in a very positive manner? I don't think so. I do appreciate these stories of heroism more, and maybe it's just my personal preference, but I do resonate with people who have been experienced weird stuff, but have been determined to change this tide and do it anyways. This is what personally drives me. I don't know why. Maybe I'm a sucker for these stories.
There is a question from Mr. Aaron Reyes.
Yeah. You hear me okay?
Very nice. Thank you for setting up a question.
Great.
Is it for me or for Chris?
No, for you, for you. Once again, thank you very
good to
much for going through your journey, and obviously great job and good luck in your book sales and your growing of
Appreciate
your
you.
business. I'm wondering because your experience, I mean, obviously you made a domain commitment, whether you knew that or not 10, 15 years ago, you ultimately did, and you put in your X thousands to, maybe tens of thousands of hours, or what will eventually be that. What can you maybe impart to us on that domain journey, right? Like when you made that call to sort of say, you know what, better or worse, this is going to be me, right? Like, it clicked with you, right? When you decided to be, use a soccer football analogy, right? When you decided to be a winger and say, like, that's what I'm going to be. I'm going to be the best, right winger in the world, or in, your own definition of that. Because that's your own mountaintop, right? Which you set your own standards. I mean, you can look at others, but you ultimately, measure yourself against where you could be, or you believe you could be. Can you maybe go into that process? Because obviously the book is an initial culmination of that, which is fantastic. But it isn't like 6 years ago you're like, book,
Book.
if you met yourself then, you'd say that's absurd, right? Like you just
Yeah.
wouldn't have squared that. But you were in that, you were in the hand-to-hand combat of that 6 years ago, whether you knew it or not. Can you maybe just talk more, and hopefully I'm clear enough about this, that
Yeah, I know what you're
inside
saying.
yourself, that stumbling through that journey when you finally said, you know what, I'm pretty damn good with connecting the dots on these GTM concepts and where market fits work and how I message in that. And you're great at that. And because at some point you decided that, right? You just didn't a year and a half ago say, well, I'm really an expert at appliances, but I'm going to go write a book on GTM, right? Like
Fair.
you worked your way up there. So maybe, because I think that's where a lot of people, we all are in those different journeys at different stages. And we want that mental or psychological push, which we can't get from anyone else, right? You're not getting it from mom and dad or your uncle. I mean, the people who encourage, I believe in you, you're great. You know, I have no idea what you do, but it sounds like it's really important. I mean, that's what they could say because they don't know what we're doing every day. So it's us, right? It's all ultimately us that has to sort of pick up the weight and go. So that's my sort of setup question. Hopefully it made sense.
Yeah, totally. It was a sandwich, but I know where you are going with this one. So
I'm
the
a
thing
sandwich kind of
is,
guy. So, you know.
that's amazing. Sandwiches are delicious. I freaking love them as well. But just like in terms of how this process has been evolving, I started my career in public administration. And realization number one was I don't want to be a public servant because paycheck is shit and you don't have any liberty to do whatever you want. So that was a no-no in my career. The second thing that I did was I wrote public tenders. This is probably where I developed the writing skill because you have to make like 50 pages of some random technology description in order to make this happen. And that was like, okay, so I can write something and other people can make millions with that. Is that okay for me? I should be capturing more value added as well. Okay, so I went forward and I became an entrepreneur. When I became an entrepreneur, I was like at the beginning very much fixated of like how much can I charge for hour, right? And coming from our environment where people like the average salary here is 1,500 euros, and it's pretty easy to beat this if you are freelancing, right? If you do anything like about 30 euros per hour, you're a winner. You make more than your mom does. But is it enough? Is it sufficient? Is it like really where I was going? No, because I don't want to be selling my time for money. I want to create something. I want to build products. Okay, how do we build products? Then I was kind of okay to think about fundamental values. And for me, like the fundamental values are freedom, independence, and just like this belief in scientific methods. Like I believe in experimentation. Nobody will convince me that rainbows and unicorns are ruling the world, especially not Chris Stone there. But nevertheless, I'm a girl of science. Like I need proof and evidence for everything, and this is the scientific proof that I value. So I was naturally drawn to the experimentation method, and the first field that I got to was just like growth hacking. And growth hacking made whole lot of sense to me because instead of just like developing your marketing budget for a year advance or something like that, you could be like having these fast iteration and feedback loops, and you could be doing like more awesome stuff with that. But here's another problem. That science was invented with somebody else, by Sean Ellis. So I met the guy, he's awesome, but I saw like in reality that this science is failing pre-product market fit companies because if you don't have the necessary samples to run all these experiments, to run all these tests, you can not scale this, right? And the best literature that I came across to was just like this Alexander Oswalder and just like business model canvas and whatnot. And I was like, shit, this stuff is old. Like we have been doing this for at least like 15 years. Is there anything else that we should be just like doing otherwise in order to capture the fragments of reality as we live it today? So I went on this journey to write my own take on science. And I know this sounds a little bit awkward, but anyways, I took it as a research project. So I interviewed hundreds of folks. I read through all these studies, through all these researches, through all the previous books, and I throw it against the reality. So I just tested it with my teams who are going through this journey, and I saw what stuck, and I saw how to make this progressive journey. So that was the entire story, which is more of an evolution than anything else, because on this journey, I kind of learn more things that I don't want to do as the things which would be like magically clear and magical assumptions, leap of faiths. So yeah, that was as brutally as it was said, the reality of this voyage.
Thank you.
Hope that made sense. And just like if you
Wonderful.
are onto something innovative yourself, just like write down 10 pages, send it to 20 friends, get their feedback and see what happens. The writing journey for me was literally just like listening to freaking Mozart for 4 hours a day. So I took my morning slot in order to make liberty of just like writing when I'm the most productive, and then just like throwing all these concepts against like 10 or 20 people in order to harvest feedback and to do better. Initially I wrote 1500 pages, 350 of them stick for the filter.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you.
Appreciate the question, that was a fun one for me.
Are there any more questions from anyone?
Yeah, maybe. So I've got maybe a slightly different question. It's a bit weird. So it's, rather than having a startup, I run a small consultancy. I've been going for 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so doing stuff in the media and broadcast industry. And we've been kind of steaming along relatively comfortably with mainly one customer. But I feel like we need to take the next step, which is, I like what I hear from you. It makes a lot of sense. Can we use some of that not to just start, but actually restart, if that makes sense?
Totally. Yeah, GTM is not about the launch, it is about relaunches and expanding to the adjacent markets as well. So let's go through the thinking process together, just answer the questions and we will develop on each other's thoughts. So, what is the value added that your company is bringing to the client? Like, what are you serving?
We do have some specialist knowledge in some areas like dynamic advertising on video, for instance, which
Okay.
pretty much no one else has.
Who else could benefit from it?
Pretty much every broadcaster.
Okay. Where can you find 5 companies that are outside your NDA that wouldn't jeopardize your current business?
So I don't think we have too much problem finding them. And to be honest, our current customer has been extremely nice as well, so they wouldn't have
Nice.
any problems. And I do know a number of other broadcasting organizations, but it's to get kind of motivation and the kick up the backside to actually make it happen. I think
Okay,
that's
what's
been the
stopping
main
you?
challenge.
What's the barrier that you are facing right now?
So I think we need to redefine what is our service or our product is, because it's kind of just, it hasn't been growing out of a business plan originally 8 years ago. It's just been kind of happening as we moved along. But we've found as we've gone forward some areas of speciality, and I think you mentioned as well, don't do too much. Focus on some niche areas. So that's definitely something I want to take on.
No, Niels, but like it's not about defining the product. It's about like in your case, okay, we did X for Y. Do you want this? Like you
Yeah.
could literally be selling with your case studies. So if I don't know how your type of advertising works, but like the average CTRs are X, we can do X 5 times or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So it's all about creating these case studies and just like portraying yourself as a more efficient player. So just like, you know, the winning strategy is always playing on your strengths. Your strengths are technical proficiency. Your strengths are having a reliable client that you could probably maybe anonymously or not, just like implement your case study to. And you also have like the access and recognition to the segment. The only
Yeah.
missing puzzle is probably just like how to shape the sales pitch. And you have like the case study, and you will have to do personal sales anyways. You will have to
Yeah.
go and visit the client and just like hear about their product problems. So we would probably have to construct the solutions for them anyways. The only way to get in is just like to comfortably say, okay, this is what Google would do for you. We can do this better. Like there is value added in expertise that we developed, and we have an evidence to show for that. I think like I'm a very simplistic thinker. Forgive me if I'm sometimes like oversimplifying things, but you know, seeing this business from a bird eye perspective, it would be just like, okay, write an offer, write a client list of 10 companies that you would like to approach, poach them on LinkedIn, maybe on the email or something like that, and just book those freaking meetings and make sure that the next year you are closing 2 new clients, the best that you can capacitate. This is how I see it, but I'm a very simplistic thinker again.
I like it.
Cool. Sometimes you
Thanks.
don't have to be very intelligent, you know.
There's a great quote from Jonathan Smart in his book, Better Values, Sooner, Safer, Happier. And I always think of it when it comes to launching new things or making any change across a business. And that's think big, start small,
Yeah.
learn fast. All right, so you've got this big idea. What's the quickest way you can implement something in a small way that doesn't cost too much time, energy, money, that doesn't invalidate basic design principles, that doesn't mean you're building the wrong thing and investing a lot of money doing that? And how can you build in the feedback loops that helps you learn, is this working? If it's working, let's do more of it. If it's not working, let's do less of it.
And I think in Neil's case, we could beautifully apply this logic to just like having him accountable of sending 10 emails to potential leads that he could be serving with just like a quote or two of the results that he has been producing for his unicorn client, and just like try to arrange a couple of meetings. I mean, out of 10 emails, if they are like written nicely, I'm sure that you're gonna land at least like 2 or 3 meetings, and probably like based on the very close field of expertise, you could close another client or so if you have the capacity to work.
Cool.
And that's pretty much how I launched my most recent product. I just pinged on LinkedIn. I spoke to 50 people, just sent them a message and say, hey, thinking of doing this. Is this something you'd be interested in? Quite simply, I hadn't spent any money at that point. I hadn't spent any more effort than just asking the question. And if it is something you're interested in, what sort of things would you like as part of this? Right? What would make this interesting for you? And that gave me enough feedback to say, yes, people want it. And within a week, I had launched with it. And it works.
That's brilliant.
But that comes from having enough brand credibility to be able to do that straight away. If I had zero brands, then people are going to be like, well, who is this person? I don't trust this person yet. Why are they messaging me? It feels very salesy. The stronger your brand is, the more ability you have to be able to do that.
Cool. I even had instances when clients were selling for me, right? So I was just, okay, I'm open for another business or something like that. Do you know anybody else who could benefit from this service? Do you have like a colleague that you met on a conference or something like that? Can you say a good word for me? But I do very much appreciate what Chris was saying, because just like it's so coherent with what we were talking about in pre-sale section, right? I'm testing a LinkedIn program now, like a cohort for businesses. And for me, it's just like what is mission critical is to send 30 units for 1,000 euros approximately. Otherwise, we will not develop the product, because developing product is very expensive and it takes a very long time. So if I cannot pre-sell it, it's probably not worth 2 months of my life. So I should better buckle up and do these freaking pre-sales in order to help my product survive, because this is my product, this is my vision. I would like to see it succeed. And I always strive towards testing willingness to pay as well, if I can possibly because again, like I can have a wait list of 3,000 people, but will they convert at 30%, 50%, 3%? That I'm unsure of, right? So the only way how I make decision is just like making sure that we have this handled. Okay, somebody raised a hand. I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a quick follow up. Given that you've had a great successful pre-launch and launch of your book, do you have adjacent services that you're planning on sort of anchoring around it, where, maybe it's a subscription service which has a whole bunch of tools, templates, better polling, whatever, those type of things that will, because I found over the years, and I'm sure you have too, because you've read the literature for, the last 10, 15 years, there's, 200, 300 great books or books, let's say, and then a lot of them have a lot of regurgitation around the same concepts, but they tend to leave you with nothing, right? Like you have to go build the worksheets, go figure it out. It's sort of okay, thanks. But how do I apply this tomorrow morning or this afternoon? So I'm wondering, is that something you're looking at from an adjacency standpoint in terms of services to roll out to basically um, extend the monetization of the book buy? Because I've always found that like the weirdest thing in the business book industry is people convince you to buy a 10, 20, 30 pound book or euro book, and that's it. That's the end of the sale. Maybe go to a seminar, and that's about all they have to sell. And I always found that just it's like a weird gap in the product development, I've always found.
Okay, so there are two ways how to think about this. You could be optimizing for profit or adoption. And in that specific product, I wanted to optimize for adoption. This is why I gave the entire resource center away from free, because I don't want to have you on Gumroad, like buying weird Excel sheets from me and then like saying, oh, this was not clear. I don't want to deal with this shit. This is very, very, very connected with your product roadmap as well, right? Because like I didn't go to business with a vision to print books. I neither went to business with a vision to sell something like weird templates for a couple of 10 euros or something like that. I went to business with a vision to change businesses for the better and to raise GDP. And as vain as this sounds, like my only metrics here is the number of lives that we have improved. That's why my North Star metric here is really adoption, the number of businesses that we could be influencing by this book. In terms of business model behind it, of course, I'm not stupid, I'm thinking about things, but it's also like a lifestyle choice, right? What do you want to do, and what is something that is not maybe very appealing to you? And for example, I don't like to travel very much because I have like my very nice house in the countryside and I'm a stay-at-home girl. I very much like that. And I wouldn't enjoy the life of like changing one city to another every week. I wouldn't enjoy that. I have 2 dogs as well. So this is not a lifestyle that I would optimize for. And just like the best question that was asked to me by one of my advisors was, how do you want to spend an average day? Like, imagine if it was Wednesday, how would you like to live? And I initially went to this mental experiment with the idea how I want to spend an average day, not just like how to make a 1 million business out of this. Can it happen? Of course. Can it happen in multiple different ways? Of course. So I could be like doing education services, and I could be pairing up with investors how to capture the value from the investors that are being made. That would be high leverage opportunity. Then I could be making meta advertising and selling like a weird online course or something like that. That's a different business model. Can I do everything? No. It's impossible to capture all these opportunities with the team size of 10 that I have at the moment. So there are always trade-offs. And I'm optimizing for adoption. I'm optimizing for sustainable lifestyle so that I remain happy and sane as a person and I don't go nuts. And the third thing that I'm optimizing for is just like to the legacy. Because as I say to my freelancing students, there are like 2 ways how to earn 10K per month. Well, there are more, but they are very simplistic thinkers as well. So you could be selling something for 5K a month to 2 clients, or you could be selling something for $100 to 100 clients, right? The numbers add up. So are you into the low value game? high value game? Do you like the volume? Do you like relationships? I think that takes a little bit of the retrospective as well. So whereas I was building a business model, I was lifestyling the shit out of it.
Thank you. That's wonderful.
Appreciate your questions. Gosh, you should have a podcast.
Yeah, people have said that to me for like 15 years. I don't know. Maybe I'll
Why
probably
not?
do
What's
that.
stopping you?
Lazy, but I'm getting there. I'm getting there. People pushing me closer and closer. Maybe I'll interview you if you're okay with that.
Always. Always. I just come and
No.
talk my science to anybody who would listen.
Not before you go on mine first, mate. We've already agreed that.
Oh, cool. There is a hierarchy to it. Okay, there is a waiting line. Cool.
There's a queue, and you're behind me in it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, we are lobsters. Yeah.
Although I tell you what, if it means you get started sooner, I'll allow you to go before me. How does that sound?
I don't care, honestly. I like sharing placements with you. You're a fun guy.
There we go. There we go. Are there any further final questions for Maja on going to market? Or just anything, I guess?
Yeah, also the career, if you are facing like a career change or if you don't know what to do, okay, that sounded a little bit weird, but you know what I mean. If you are pursuing other businesses or if you are thinking about something, some changes in the next year of your life, I'm eager to help down this line as well. I know that the industry is getting like a little bit tougher. So if there is anything that we can do to support you, go ahead.
I think that means, folks, we are at the end of today's session. So thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for your wisdom, insights, Maja. You've been awesome.
Feel free thank you so much for inviting me.
By reactions or otherwise, there's lots of reactions you can use. Take a moment to show your appreciation. Obviously, we're not waking up.
Okay, so this is like react button, and then like I can put a brain. Okay, Aaron and I are soul bodies. We put brain at the same time. Very nice.
Beautiful. Look at that. So yeah, thank you. Our next session, we'll be hearing from Chantal Thakur for Agile Leadership, and that's next week. If you did miss this, or if you know someone that missed this and wanted to be here, then the link for it will be going on the YouTube channel, so you can they can catch up. And as you leave Butter today, you'll be prompted to provide some feedback about this session. Obviously, I am a continuous improvement advocate, and it is difficult for us to improve unless someone tells us how to do so. So do please take a moment to share your feedback on this session, and we can ensure that Maja gets that and is able to ensure it's better for next time rounds.
Yeah, totally. Because you know how it is when you are like so deep into the science and you have like spent a year like thinking about this concept. When it comes to the real people, it's quite a challenge to just like say it how it was. So I'm using an example from my book because it's very recent. If you felt that this could be better explained through another example or something like that, I'm literally open to anything because I'm still learning myself. I just want to spread this science to the most people that I can possibly have because I believe it's a good one.
All right, with that being said, thank you. Till next time, gang. Thanks again, Maja. Thank you, everyone, for your engagement.
Thanks for coming. Appreciate you guys.